My name's Sasha Paton. I'm joined by a fantastic individual. This man scored goals for fun. None other than Socceroo and Heidelberg legend, Mr. Jamie Paton. Welcome, Jamie, to this conversation.
Hi, Sasha. Thanks very much for inviting me onto your show. And I'm looking forward to having this great little chat with you.
Brilliant. So, Jamie, tell us, how did you fall in love with our great game?
Well, it was just a natural thing in Glasgow because there was only one game in town, and it was football. And where I lived, right outside the front of my house, there was a crescent, which was split into two with a pathway down the middle. And one half of the street played on one half of the crescent, and the other team played on the other half of the crescent. And every Sunday, we would swap and we'd play against each other. Rather against playing against each other on the Sunday, we would play against each side of the street, which was fiercely competitive. So competitive football arrived very early in my age.
Fantastic. So the when you became an adult, you gravitated to the front of the pitch. But as you're growing up as a junior, where did you find yourself playing?
Well, I had a certainly different upbringing into football, into senior football, because I really, although I love football, I wasn't that interested in playing for any of the boys' clubs, the big boys' clubs. And where I live is like 400 yards from Celtic Boys Club, which my father would have killed me if I'd went and played for them, even though I'd met many offers to go and play there. And I was quite content playing with the school and the boys' brigade. And then I decided it was time to leave the boys' brigade and I should find a club to play for. Mm-hmm. And so I went and played for a team called Partick Thistle Boys Club, which was on diagonally. You couldn't get any further away from me in Glasgow than where Partick Thistle Boys Club played. And it was in a place called Drumchapel, which was a rather violent little place. And so I decided this is not such a good idea. You're running a gauntlet every night you go to training. So I left that, and my father says, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And my father says, well, look, I know a guy at Queen's Park Youth Club. And so I went and played for Queen's Park Youth Club for a year. And the year I spent there, I obviously must have impressed somebody in the Queen's Park senior area, because I got asked to come up for a trial at Queen's Park.
So, from memory, is Queen's Park like one of the oldest clubs in Scotland?
Yes, it is the oldest club.
The oldest, there you go. So, a lot of history there at Queen's Park. I think they're now playing third tier, but
no, they've moved up now. They're in the playoff positions to go into the championship.
Oh, how good's that? Oh, good on them. Yeah. So, what were they like when you were there? We're talking about the 70s, right? So
yeah, I went to Queen's Park in '74, and it was an amateur club, the only amateur club in the British professional leagues, but it was run professionally, and it was fantastic. It was just like, oh wow, what's this? You go there. Even when I first joined, I went into the third team. And all your kit was laid out for you for training. All your boots were polished for you. So all you done was make sure you turned up with a suit and tie on, and that was it. Get on with playing the game.
So how old were you when you actually got called up to playing your first senior game?
I think I'd just turned 18 by about a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And that in itself is an interesting story.
Okay.
Because when I first went to Queen's Park, I went on in a trial with the third team, which was called the Hampden 11, which Queen's Park's ground is Hampden Park, which is the National Stadium. And so I went on a trial and obviously done well because they signed me straight after the game. And so that was great. And about 6 months later, Queen's Park signed their first ever professional coach.
Okay.
It was a gentleman by the name of David McPalland. And he when he first came in, he decided that we're going to get rid of as much amateurism out of this club as possible. And so he went to the manager of the Hampden 11, a guy called Archie Watson, and said, is there anybody in this third team that can play in the first team? And Archie Watson said, well, there's two. There's Jamie Paton and a guy called Jimmy Rooney. But it's not that Jimmy Rooney.
All right, okay.
And so he says, great. And he said, the rest of them, let them go. And then he went to the Strollers 11, which was the reserves. Same thing to their manager. Is there anybody in here who can get a game in the first team? 3 or 4 players. Let the rest of them go. First team, he just about cleaned the full first team out because it was all set, really set that these guys had to play in the first team. And that was all going to change. So he set up this friendly night where the third team played, the second team played. And so there was 3 grounds at Hampden. One's called Lesser Hampden. And so I played in a friendly game. I can't remember who it was against for the third team. And I was a right winger then. And I scored 3 in the first half.
Happy days.
And I'm gone, oh, wow. Next thing I know, I get subbed. Half time, subbed. Then I was like, oh, that's me out the door. And I'm going, how can you kick me out the door? I've just scored a hat trick in the first half.
Yep.
And anyway, so Sandy, the kit man, has gone, Jamie, go across to the main ground. And I'm going, why? He says, oh, you're playing in the reserves game against Clyde. I said, really? I'm going, oh, yes, this is great. Zooms across there, gets changed, comes on in the second half, and I scored 2 for the reserves. And then I turn up at training on Thursday night because it was part-time. And so I turns up on Thursday night at training, and that's when on the notice board they post the teams. So I've looked at, I've got a game in the third team, no Jamie Paton. I'm going, shit, excuse the language. So I've looked at the Strollers, I might have a game in the reserves, no Jamie Paton. And I've gone and thrown the boots. And Sandy's gone, what's the matter with you? I says, well, I scored 3 for the Hampden 11, I scored 2 for the reserves, and I'm not in any of the teams. And he's gone, you idiot. He said, have you looked at the first team? So I was in the first team. And that's how I found out that I've got, boom. And basically that's where it all started from.
Brilliant. So you were always the gravitating at the front of the pitch. I mean, and knack for goal. You were there at Queen's Park for a number of years. I think for about 4 years or so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, about 4 years.
Did any other teams in the UK come knocking?
I had a few opportunities. Some of them controversial. I used to work part-time. I was a telephone engineer.
Yep.
I used to work part-time behind the bar of the Celtic Supporters Club,
okay,
which didn't go down well with my family at all because we're all Rangers fans.
Yeah.
And we were playing Rangers in the Scottish Cup game on the Wednesday night. And on Tuesday night, one of my friends has gone, let's go and have some games at pool, snooker. I'm going, yeah, okay. So we go to the Celtic Supporters Club, they did full-size pool tables. And so what turned into 1 or 2 games turned into 4 in the morning. and then I was go to work at 7 in the morning. Anyway, and then finish work, straight to Hampden. Well, not to Hampden Park, but we would just go to a place called Dunkeld House, where we had always had a light meal before a game. And then from there, off to the game. So unfortunately, we got beat 3-1 by Rangers, and for some magnificent reason, I got man of the match. And that's not bad, being out at 4 in the morning when you're not supposed to be out at all.
Yeah.
And the next night, I get hauled into the office by David McParland. He says, do you think you're George Best? And I said, why? He said, you were in the Celtic Supporters Club at 3, 4 in the morning before we played Rangers. And I went, oh, no. And he went, yes. He says, I know for a fact because he had spies everywhere. And it was just like, oh, well, I said, I got man in the match, back page of the Daily Record, which is the #1 paper. His back page is young up-and-coming star Jamie Paton. Oh, actually, they called me Jimmy then.
Okay.
And my mum hated it. She even hated me getting called Jamie. And, Mum, man in the match. I said, so. He said, he absolutely lambasted me. And okay. I found out a year later that the night after that game, or the day after that game, Jock Wallace, who was the manager of Rangers at that time, tried to sign me.
Okay.
And the absolute bollocking that I got off David McParland, listen, son, you're only 18. Do you really want to play for this club? If you don't want to play for the club, go away. For far, but you can understand.
Yeah.
So that I went, oh no, I shit myself. Went, no. So I stayed. And then there was other interest, and David McParland eventually become manager of Celtic, and he tried to sign me for Celtic. And the day that he was going to make the offer, which we were actually playing Celtic. And I get a visit from Aston Villa's #1 scout. And they say, look, Celtic are going to make you an offer. Don't accept it. And he actually told me how much Celtic were going to offer me. And sure as anything, I said, don't worry about it. And sure as anything, the offer that Celtic made me was exactly that.
Yeah.
And they knew. And they quadrupled it. Aston Villa.
So Villa offered 4 times the amount.
Yeah. It was in 1974 or 75, I think. Was it 75? No, it wasn't 74. 75 or 76. And it was £45,000. That was my cut.
Wow.
And that would have been, in today's Australian money, probably about $135,000. I could have bought the full street, every house in the street with that money.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I got injured against Celtic, and that cancelled that move.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how bad was the injury?
Torn ligaments in my knee.
Oh.
I tackled the guy called Paul Wilson, and I put him about a mile up in the air. He came down and landed on my knee, and I get substituted at half time.
So you're obviously out for a long time?
I was out for about 3 months. It was quite bad.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, so I think because we'll talk about this later, but you stopped playing before you were 30. So it was injuries again that stopped you from playing. It's amazing how these sliding door moments where injury can stop you progressing to that sort of next level, because you're still a very young lad and you would have had a lot to improve. Getting into a Celtic or a Villa framework, that could then catapult you to do something else, right? So it's just very interesting how important it is, how much luck has to do with your footballing career.
Well, I know that, like, I was sort of like the best football player in our street. But the next street up, there was better players who never even, they got as far as junior football. And junior football in Scotland, it's not kids. It's just the seniors is the top teams, and then the juniors is the leagues below them. But they're all grown men. And, excuse me. And so there was so many great players knocking around about Glasgow, and attitude and discipline. Yeah, they played a part for a lot of them not making it. But in my boys' brigade team, which I left when I was 16, there was players there who were just unbelievable. And none of them even made it to junior football.
Yeah.
So being in the right place at the right time is everything. And it happens to many players that they had an opportunity, and you've heard it before, or I could have been this, I could have been that. And a lot of it's true. But mostly when people say, I could have done this or I could have done that, they get sort of shrugged away.
So, like, why the move to Australia? So how did that transpire?
Well, what happened was there was a guy called Frank Thompson who played for Slavia in the old state league in Victoria. And me and Frank played together in Scotland at Queen's Park. And Frank was on holiday. And Frank says, listen, why don't you come to Australia? And I went, why don't I not? And he's gone, no, I said, look, he says, come for 3 months at the end of the season.
Okay. Like a holiday type. Yeah. See how you go.
And play. I never even knew there was a national soccer league then.
Yeah.
So I went, well, why not? So I got permission for the club. I had to get him written that I had to come straight back because they thought I was trying to do a sidestep out the door and go somewhere else, which I did. So I went, I spent time here, won the top goal scorer in the state league, and playing as a centre forward, which was not my position. I was a wide right midfield player towards winger. So I done well, and eventually Heidelberg United come calling.
So the state league, when you obviously with Slavia, what would you say the standard would be like in comparison to Scotland at the time? So
I thought it was quite a very good standard.
Yeah. And so what, second tier, third tier, fourth tier?
I think maybe third tier.
Yeah, third tier. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And there was a lot of good players played in that.
Yeah. And obviously then so it's the Phillips League. Heidelberg played a year, and I think that's when they signed you. So they played 1 year. They saw you obviously in the state league, and then they made the offer. So memory recall, it was a big transfer fee.
$25,000.
25,000. How many houses could you buy in, let's say, for example, in Heidelberg for 25,000?
Then I'm not quite sure, but a couple of years after probably 81, I bought a house in East Paran, which is a pretty prestigious area, and I bought that for $72,000.
There you go. Yeah, so I would say you're probably looking at buying a house. It's 25,000. It's at least a house in 78 in Heidelberg.
I never got the 25,000.
Of course not. Slavia did. Probably paid for a good portion of their following wages. But I mean, you know,
this is an interesting, funny story about how lives intermix and get joined together. The money that they got for myself and John Eisendorf, they actually brought 4 players over from Liverpool, or 5 players from Liverpool, and every one of them players who came from Liverpool are now personal friends of mine.
Oh wow!
And one of them, their wife and my wife, are the best friends ever.
There you go.
Well, things that just collide. It's amazing.
So I mean, you repaid Heidelberg quite handsomely. This is an era in Heidelberg's history where I would say arguably it's the pinnacle of Heidelberg's heyday. You know, the early years of the Philips League. You know, from memory, I think you guys had like half the Australian squad in your team, right? It's you would have almost everybody would have been either playing for Victoria or playing for Australia or captaining, or you know, it was crazy.
Well, I've got a couple of photographs. I only looked at them the other day, and there's a photograph, a Heidelberg team photograph, and there's 11 Socceroos in it.
So
11.
So former or current, or at the time they were playing, or they all got caps at some point.
They were former, actually playing at the time, and will play later.
Or future, correct? Okay, there you go.
And I think 3 of them were on the bench.
Yeah. Wow. The it must have been. I reckon training would have been harder than most games.
Training was very hard. Len McKendry was a hard taskmaster, especially for me, because he knew what my social life was like. When we finished training, everybody would get off training, and Len would go, "Jamie, where are you going?" I said, "Same as everybody else." He'd go, "No, you're not. Come back here." and he'd give me another lot of runs to do.
Okay, yeah, tried to sweat you out, huh?
Mm.
So what would you say that your greatest attributes when you were playing? What would you think was your X factor?
I was pretty good at bringing other players into the game.
Yep.
I was obviously pretty good at scoring goals. And just being in the right place at the right time. It's just the sense. Goal scorers around the world have it. They seem to have this innate sense of where the ball's going to land. So they make sure they're there where the ball lands. But that Heidelberg team were very, let's say, underperformed in trophies.
Yeah.
We should have won much, much more than we did. And so, I think I was a reasonably good player, probably better than good, but the team was full of talent.
Yeah. It's easy to play when you play with good players, isn't it? So the better quality of your teammate, it's easier. You're not covering up for other people's mistakes. It's hard playing if you're a very good player in an average team. If everybody around you is at your level, it becomes a lot easier to play.
Well, if you've ever seen any of my previous interviews, you'll hear me say often, and I'll say it again, is myself and Gary Cole, we had the great fortune to score most of the goals. But the only reason we scored them goals was because we had an absolutely sensational midfield.
Yeah.
And with the midfield, Kenny Taylor, Jimmy Campbell, Theo Selamides, and I don't mean to leave anybody out there. And we obviously with Branko Bulovic, with Andy Bezikas.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. So we scored goals because we were in midfield, not because of us.
Yeah. Yeah,
it
was a very great strike partnership, you and Gary, and he was so quick. You know, he was so fit and so quick. Rocket of a shot. You know, God help the keeper if it was on target. That ball was going in that hard to hold. So who would you say had a better shot out of you and Gary? So if you had to line it up,
me. The koalas in the trees behind on the Yarra edge. On the Yarra side, they
were scared of Gary's shot, right? Yeah, yeah, good stuff. So, who would you say the greatest rivalry was? So when you're playing in your time at Heidelberg, because you were there for a number of years, where would you say that the greatest, the biggest matches?
Obviously, South Melbourne Hellas.
Yeah,
and it was quite funny. In the early days of the NSL, when we played South Melbourne Hellas, we were in St Kilda Road Travelodge the night before a game.
Okay.
So we could put in a hotel the night before a game.
That's unusual. I didn't know that happened in town. So.
Yeah. And there was another occasion, would be FA Cup final night. We would be in a hotel. So we weren't out anywhere watching the FA Cup final.
Okay. All right. So was that they were trying to get a handle on you because you guys were...
It was obviously a level of mistrust, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would expect your management would trust you to do the right thing. But that only lasted for a couple of years and then it disappeared.
Okay. So so it was this time that you ended up getting selected into a number of Socceroo camps. So talk us through what it is that how those Socceroo camps went and how you ended up getting selected into becoming a Socceroo.
I never went to too many of the camps.
Okay.
And it was very amateurishly run, the Socceroos. Everybody was working, and I could show you some invitations I've got, and you're going to be away for like nearly 2 months, and out of 3 months on training camps. Now, you tell me an employer that's going to put up with that.
Yeah.
And it's all, I went to a couple of the training camps, and they were all pretty boring and meaningless.
Yeah. I heard, was this, was Goodendorf, did Goodendorf have the team at the time? Or were you there
Rudy
before that?
Was the coach at the time. Rudy was an interesting man.
Yeah.
Very interesting man.
So a bit eccentric. What was he like?
Eccentric is an understatement.
Okay.
He had his own way, and he coached by terror.
Okay.
Everybody was so frightened to do anything. And I've got an interesting photograph of when I was in one of the games. I think it was against Dynamo Zagreb. And there's 5 centre forwards in the team. Needless to say, we lost 4-0.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter in Europe. Why on earth would you have 5 centre forwards in the same team? The 5 of them was myself, Gary Cole, Eddie Krenchevic, Kenny Bowden, and John Kuzmina. Madness.
What, in the actual 11?
Yeah.
Okay, so no balance to his sides.
No. He just I don't know what was in his brain half the time. And we used to have a thing called sub-lotto.
You didn't know who was coming on and at what time?
Who was coming off first,
Okay.
and at what time. I think Alan Davidson got the record, I think. But they was a different bloke.
Okay, yeah. So regardless, I mean, what's it like? So you obviously you got your Scottish heritage, but playing for Australia and putting on the green and gold, what's that feeling like? Listening to the anthem play?
It is unbelievable, and the pride that you feel, not only for yourself but for the country, and you think, I'm actually here playing for the country.
Yeah.
And that feeling in itself, forget about being Scottish. Yeah. It overwhelms and it takes over you, and you become more Australian than Scottish.
Yeah.
That's what I felt, because it made me more Australian than what I really am.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So what would you say that is one of the bigger games or tougher games that you played in your you got a few appearances for the Socceroos, both A and B appearances. What would say one of the tougher ones that you played?
I would say the toughest games were actually playing for Victoria.
Okay.
I didn't find any of the national team games particularly tough, but I remember playing against AC Milan for Victoria, and that was extremely tough.
Okay. Who were some of the people in that AC side? Do you remember?
Capello. I only remember Capello because he was punching and kicking me all around the ground. But I don't know all the names so much.
So, but did you get any back on Capello?
Yeah, I punched him in the jaw. Well, he wasn't looking. Same as what
no cards, no one saw anything.
Nah, nobody's seen anything in them days.
Yeah, good stuff.
In them old days, a tackle was a tackle, and everybody just got up and got on with it.
Yeah.
No matter how bad it was.
So you were with Heidelberg for a good 6 years or so. What sort of sparked the move? Why?
It's not a good time in my football career. It started with my contract was up, and the manager at the time, Ken Morton, the club offered me a contract which wasn't acceptable to me, and they said, "Well, you don't sign this, you won't be playing in the Ample Cup final." And I said, "That suits me fine." And they went, "What do you mean it suits you fine?" I said, "No, if you don't want me playing the final, you don't want me playing the final." I said, "You're putting this as a rider on me signing a contract that I don't want to sign. So you're making the decision." So we went on.
Jamie, it's a very old school way of doing business, isn't it? Right. So this ultimatum, right? So it's almost amateurish, isn't it?
Yes. And so we're playing Green Gully, who were at that time being coached by Len McKendry. And in the first 10 minutes, Stuart Cannell has put an absolutely brutal tackle on Jimmy Campbell, and it's literally tore his calf muscle off the bone. So Jimmy's off to hospital. So we're getting beat 4-0. We have about 7-8 minutes to go. Ken Morton goes, "Jamie, you're on." I looked at him, I said, "You kidding? 7 or 8 minutes to go, we're getting beat 4-0. And am I going to score 5 goals in 4 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever?" So I'm on the park 1 minute, and Stuart Cannell has come straight in, 2-footed, straight down the back of my legs. Bam! I've turned around and you might be able to visualize this on the camera here, and I've just turned around and I've gone, bang, and he's gone down like a sack. And I've gone, get up, you English. I'll only say the rest. That wasn't a good enough punch. And I turned around and the ref's like that. And I said, don't worry about it, I'm gone. And the club actually, and this broke my heart, the club accused me of selling the game.
Oh, you were hardly on there.
Yeah. So I lasted a minute and get sent off, and they never informed me of my tribunal hearing, and I ended up getting suspended for 10 weeks. I've never been suspended in my life before.
Okay. How do you sell the game when you weren't part of it for like not 83 minutes? It doesn't make sense, right? If you're on that,
well, they accused me of I was going out with Len McKendry's daughter.
Okay, got it. All right.
How sad is that?
Yeah, got it.
Len McKendry doesn't have a daughter.
All right, so it's a contract negotiation time, but you did want to stay. So if the offer was good, you would have stayed, right?
Yeah. And then Sam Galopoulos, who was the president, he's gone, we cannot afford to have the Australian team playing at Heidelberg. And that was the disintegration of the team.
Okay, got it. So it was. So did a number of players move on afterwards?
Well, I went. Kenny Taylor went. Gary Cole went.
Yeah.
Jimmy Campbell went. Theo Selamides went.
Yeah. Okay. But so obviously money dried up.
In stages.
Yeah. So the money dried up. Got it. So so you then so did you have options like where you could have gone?
No, I didn't have any options at the time when I left.
Okay.
Because I just went, they suspended me for 4 weeks. Don't come back to the club for 4 weeks. That says a lot.
Yeah.
And so I just went, that's me. I've had enough of football.
Okay.
And I was only, 27 or 26 then.
Yeah.
And so off I went, and that was it. And then Bobby McLaughlin, actually an old friend of mine, Hugh Money, he got in contact with me and says, Jamie, what are you doing? So I went and played for like a third division team or something, and called Paran Celtic. And I worked for Telecom, as it was called then, now Telstra. And I used to work every Saturday, but I was always working in St Kilda Road, which was just round the corner from the ground. So I'd race there and I'd get back and come on for the second half. And then Bobby McLaughlin, he got in contact with me and said, Jamie, what are you doing? So I agreed terms with Footscray Just. So I went to Footscray Just.
From memory, you banged in a lot of goals for Footscray. So you were scoring every other week or even more, right? So how good was the team at Footscray?
Playing at Footscray was a challenge.
Okay.
And there was really good players there. I mean, Radko Luic, man, that guy could have been anything.
He was very quick, very quick.
Oh, electric. I remember scoring against South Melbourne Hellas when Radko, he's crossed this ball and I've dived and headed it. And my ears were ringing for about 20 minutes. Almost knocked me out.
From the cross?
Yeah. But he was a good player. He should have done a lot more with his career than what he did. I think he was just comfortable and happy being at Footscray Just.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was other players there as well, you know. There were characters like Belic.
Yeah.
Do you remember Belic?
Of course I do, yes. Yeah.
Man, he was such great fun and great company. I remember we went up to Marconi and we were winning 1-0 with a couple of minutes to go before a certain goalkeeper tossed a goal. Tory Henderson, I think, against Marconi, he scored the equaliser. And we're wandering around about King's Cross, and Bellich has gone. Every girl that he met, Bellich is the name. Scoring goals is the game.
Did they rope you into any card games? Apparently, the boys at Footscray love the cards.
No, they never. But I did get roped into a card game at Heidelberg by Branko Bulovic.
Okay, Bulovic. Okay, there you go.
And man, what a player he was.
Yeah, quality.
Yeah, but I can't even remember the name of the game. It was a great game. Manila.
Yeah.
And I cleaned them up, all the Greeks at the back. I never even played the game before.
Yeah. Crazy game, that Manila, especially 2-card and 3-card Manila. Yeah, it's very,
easy to lose a lot of money.
Stakes game. Interesting. So so tough at Footscray. Was it because how long was Bobby McLaughlin there?
Probably there about 3 years.
Okay, all right. And was he the only coach that you played with at Footscray, or did they change him over?
Tito Čirković.
Čirković, yeah.
And what a great man he is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he's still alive, Tito. But man, he was a different manager. He let players play to their strengths, and not a lot of direction. But he was a good man manager.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff. And so the was it an injury that finished off your career? So how did you finish up with Footscray?
Well, Footscray was the end result of what happened with Heidelberg, and then I went to Footscray, and I just get fed up with broken promises.
Okay.
And I just went, I don't need this, and that was it. And then,
did you end up going to Brunswick at all?
Yeah. Well, I was just moving on to that. Len McKendry says, Jamie, what are you doing? You got to play. He said, you're too good a player. You're too young.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the only person who could have taught me it would have been Len McKendry. And so he talked me into going to Brunswick Juventus. And so I played in the Ample Cup, building up to the season. They hadn't offered me a contract as such.
Okay.
And we played Melbourne, Croatia. I don't think they were called Melbourne Knights then.
No.
In the semi-finals of the Ample Cup. And I'd only been training. I hadn't played for a year or something.
Yeah.
And I'd only been training for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But I'm sort of naturally fit. So the game's gone to extra time. I'm still running. When everybody else has done a full pre-season and everything, they're all falling down. And then in the last minute of extra time, this ball's come flashing across the goals, and I've jumped at it like this, and I must have missed it by about that much. Any touch, it was a goal, and would have been to penalties. Anyway, so I never got to it. And the next week at training, Lenny's gone, look, Jamie, I want you to play in the youth team next week. And I just looked at Lenny and I said, that's not your decision. And he said, what do you mean? I said, there is no way you would ask me to go and play in the youth team.
Yeah.
I said, everybody's on their bones, falling down. I'm still going. I'm probably the unfittest person there, but I'm the one that's still running.
Yeah.
And I said, that's not your decision. Somebody else has made that decision, and I think it was Joe Caruso. And so I said, that's it.
Anyway, done.
That's it. I says, thanks for the opportunity and goodbye. And that was it.
Do you regret that decision, or are you happy with that decision?
I totally regret that decision because guess what happened that season?
Yeah, they won the championship, didn't they? That year?
Yeah, they won the National Soccer League. So yes, I do totally regret that decision.
Yeah. So looking, did you play anywhere after that for socially or down the leagues? No, you just gave it up.
Yeah, that was it. Well, although socially, I played in one up at Eastern Lions. They have a Scotland-England game every year, which is now called the Billy Whiteside Cup. And I played in that once, only because Scotland didn't have enough players.
Okay.
And so I was sort of bullied into playing in it.
Yeah, you roped in, right? Roped in for a game.
No, I get bullied into it because I didn't want to play. And so I did. And anyway,
How old were you at this time?
Probably about 35 or something.
Okay,
I only played for 6 years or something, 7 years. And anyway, we beat England 2-1. And guess who scored the winner?
Yours truly?
Correct.
Good stuff. So you think about like the memories of football. Who are some of the mates, the people that you still call up or touch base with? Who are some of the friends that you still close with?
Well, we have a fantastic past players club at Heidelberg.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody. I still catch up with. There was a pub in Windsor called the Windsor Castle, where we used to have the Monday Club, and it was all football players for every club.
Okay.
We used to catch up there on a Monday, and I still catch up with a lot of them socially. David Brooks, I don't know if you know Brooks, eh?
No, I don't.
Well, he organised a bit of a reunion a few weeks ago, which is going to become a biannual event where everybody who's ever been involved in the game at any level is welcome to come.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And every New Year's Day at 11 o'clock, which is New Year's 11 in the morning here, is midnight in the UK. And so a lot of UK players catch up on New Year's Day and we have a drink. So we have 2 New Year's Day, which is horrendous.
Yeah, good stuff. If you think back, if you could relive a memory of any game that you played, what comes to mind?
Probably 3 games that I cannot split. One was that game against Rangers at Ibrox. That was a memory like you wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Semi-final was the Phillips Cup against South Melbourne, where we beat Hellas 4-0. I scored 2, made 2, and actually got 10 points in Soccer Action as a rating.
Oh, that's the best. Yeah, you like did you when you'd see sometimes you go, players get like 3 and 4 and 5. It's like, ouch. It was so tough, the markers there in the Soccer Action. They're hard to get like an 8, a 9, or a 10. Right? It was hard. They were so hard, the markers in that Soccer Action.
Yeah.
So
and probably the grand final in Canberra, when we beat Sydney City 4-0.
Yeah.
And I was involved in all 4 goals. And I thought I played poorly.
Okay.
That was my own judgment. I was lucky not to get sent off, to be quite honest. And that game was a game that got me selected for the Socceroos World Tour.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because I thought I played poorly.
There you go.
But Len McKendry and Rudy Gutendorf, they were talking. And Gutendorf says, he carries a little bit of condition, because I wasn't the leanest person in the world. I wasn't fat or anything. And Lenny said to him, who was Germany's greatest ever goal scorer? And Gutendorf went, Gerd Müller. He said, look at Jenny. Gerd Müller.
Yeah, there you go.
And so he put me back in the squad for the tour. So they would be probably 3 of the biggest games.
Yeah, that important games too. So, Jamie, if you're speaking to a, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old boy or girl wanting to make that next sort of level, step up from, semi-pro or playing against kids at that level and now trying to break into the senior team, what advice do you have for them?
Well, the only advice you can give any player is to give everything you've got and take every opportunity that comes your way. And by opportunity, that can be as simple as just kicking the ball up against the wall. Just kick it against the wall. Make sure, if you're right-footed, kick it with your right foot. Control it with your left foot. So you say both your feet. So you get the accuracy of kicking with your right foot and readjusting your body to use your left foot. And if you can use both your feet, you're halfway in front of everybody already.
Yeah.
And it's all about dedication and training. And you've got to train as hard as you can and listen and take in as much information as you can possibly get in from your coaches at your club.
Fantastic words of wisdom. Jamie Paton, thank you so much for your contribution to Australian football, representing our country, and really your goal-scoring machine. You probably could have gone on to play for many more years. Maybe stopped a little bit early.
I often think that.
Yeah. But once again, thank you so much for this fantastic conversation.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed being part of your program, and I hope that you enjoyed being part of it as well.
Fantastic.
Hey guys, we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our wonderful guest. If you like this type of content and would like to see more, how about you hit the like and subscribe button? And have a fantastic day.